What's up? What's up? We're back doing a random podcast today. Huh, Jordan? How's it going, man?
Dude, capital I, incredibly okay. Yeah, as always.
Well, same here, dude. Just happy to be here with you on a Sunday at my parents' house. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we just decided, what the heck? We haven't done a podcast in a while. Wanted to, I don't know, just kind of start talking about stuff. There's a lot going on. I know it's been a little crazy around here in Portland, but it's always nice when we could get together and just kind of see what happens. So that's
Yeah.
all I wanted to do. Let's just tap into whatever flows. So,
Yeah.
Jordan, what's on your mind, bro?
Yeah, no pressure. Um, my dude, um, 2020, um, classic at this point. Yeah.
Mm,
Signed, sealed, delivered as a um, incredible dot, 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 fill in the blank. I think it meant a lot of different things for a lot of different people, and um, I think it's been a decent amount of time since you and I have um, even had a verbal circle jerk with each other, like and just been in a space where we um, wanted to get emotionally naked in public
yeah, it's
on
never
the
fun.
U of the tube. Um, yeah, I think there's a it's been a incredible gift to be alive, man, in this last year. And um, I think as cliche as that could come across for all the suffering, um,
Yeah.
obviously from a racial standpoint, poverty standpoint, joblessness, the I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about the suicide rate, and um, that was something that I had thought a lot about a few years ago. Prior to obviously, I I couldn't foresee that fucking Batman's symbol was gonna ruin the world and fucking wherever it was, Yao Ming, China. I don't forget where the place was. It originated, but yeah, I don't think anyone could have foresaw um, the symbol of Batman ruining the world and the coronavirus. But in all seriousness, I think it this last year exposed um, the real sickness and the real disease um, underlying in all of us, and um, I think that's the reality that we all feel so fucking alone, and the level of isolation that was forced upon us
Mm,
because of all the mandates worldwide. It was like one of the first times in history, I think, worldwide there was um, a demand, like legally, for everyone to stay home alone, and suffer
yeah.
with the ones you love, quote unquote, or the ones you realize you don't love, quote unquote. And I think it's the scariest thing for people that were not by choice, were forced to get really quiet, get really isolated. And I think most people obviously ran the fuck away from themselves every moment into entertainment and escaping. But I think the real interesting thing is I think the coronavirus in this last year exposed the degree of like how lost we are with even understanding how lost we are. Like we're so confused and lost as to um, where meaning and purpose are found in life, and as to how one even seeks out how to get unlost, or where to find that treasure map to finding some form of peace. I think the one thing we know that we don't know as a byproduct of 2020 is um, what the point of life is, man. It's exposed that in a radical way, And I think the one thing that big pharma has definitely not provided is a soul vaccine for how to find peace of mind
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
in the isolation. And um, yeah, I it definitely yeah, it's a even here now there's like this nothingness in my mind as to uh, how to even go about that. But I think um, in terms of the remedy, but I think it definitely put me in a space, not only physically but mentally, emotionally, to really explore what's not working in my
Mm-hmm.
life.
Yeah.
And it's been fascinating to, obviously you and I are considered essential workers,
Yeah.
very big loose quote unquote, um, but it's been very interesting to see how much the lack of nonverbal communication can affect you. And I don't remember the last time I saw a smile in public.
Is that because of the mass, or is that
Yeah,
just?
yeah. Well, a lot of times I can see the eyes. I'm like, your
Yeah.
eyes are saying that there's some kind of a grin
Mm.
conjuring up, maybe. But it's been fascinating how the circumstances this last year have forced us to be disconnected, even when we are physically with each other, just from that lack of um, true communication, which is nonverbal. And um, yeah, dude, it's incredible what happens to the world when we finally connect to how disconnected we
Mm.
are. So
Hmm. Well, let's go into that then.
yeah, dude.
So, what? I mean, the virus has shown a lot this last year, and who we are, and where we're at, and what we expect out of the world that we're in, and what we think we need to have healthy whole lives.
Yeah,
And I think now it's kind of interesting where I mean, much of the world is continuing on. It's I mean, when you think about it, it's actually pretty amazing that all these supply lines of stuff are been going still. Warehouses are open, still making stuff, and like it's still going. But we're not able to go out to dinner, we're not able to go see a movie. We have to really be careful around who we see, how we see them. And it's really added I don't know, a different perspective compared to this comfort that I feel like we used to be in. I think every time you see someone wearing a mask, to a degree, it kind of reminds you that this thing's out there that can get you. It's like the boogeyman disease, you know?
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of what it is. I mean, you never know who has it. It's not obvious. Some people could be silent carriers, some people not. And it's just, I mean, the mask is the reminder that the boogeyman's out there. And a lot of us want to forget that the boogeyman's there,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of brings us close to that thought of mortality and health. And yeah, it's been really interesting just to see all the different perspectives and convictions that have come from so many different people in so many different ways, that it is revealing. And I think that it is a great chance to really get to look at ourselves, and just the way we operate in the way, like you said, like how are we dealing with this isolation? Like, how are we, like, what is it showing us about ourselves? It seems like it's really pulling out this this pain or this fear that's been like trapped in there. And now it's like it's almost been pulled out a little bit more to the surface. We can't really bury it with all the stuff we were used to, and it's uncomfortable. And I know it's I mean, it's nice being so-called essential workers where we still have a job, we're still able to go to work and get paid, and there's plenty of people that haven't, that have had a much harder road with all this and all that comes with it, and to be sensitive to all that too. But I think that it's revealing, at least in my life, just to see how it's affected me, my family, and just the day-to-day battle of like what it means to live a life with some sort of joy and purpose. Because it's I don't feel like it's as simple as it used to be. And yeah, it's really causing me to reflect on it a lot more, which for that part I'm grateful for. So I don't know, man. I mean, what do you think? Like, what have you seen for in your own life for, and then this last, what, the virus has been here since like March is kind of when all the lockdowns, I mean,
Mm,
it's almost been a year. And like, what has it kind of forced you to do?
yeah. That's a great question, man. I I am fortunately or unfortunately someone that already spends probably too much time with themselves, um, just introspectively fatiguing myself with trying to understand myself. And what I was saying earlier is it's the coronavirus in 2020. Um, it's kind of interesting, like that the idea of like 2020 vision being perfect vision.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's forced people to not just have 2020 vision, but like under like a microscopic level of exposure. Like when you are alone by yourself, looking at yourself, you can't escape with like, oh, I got a um, cataracts, and metaphorically, I have these other things that impair me from you know really seeing what's true about myself, and all the different ways we want to be a victim about things, or want to place blame on
Mm-hmm.
other people or other relationships for not having yet like manifested or created the life that I really want, or becoming the person that I want to be. And um, yeah, it's definitely not a soul um, visual prescription that I wanted to be the receiver of, to have that clarity of vision into myself. But um, I saw and currently am seeing um, so many things that prevent me from really not only connecting to myself, but I would say connecting to others. I think the seeing like vicariously looking at, I would say, all the racial shit and all the poverty and all the hate that has been obviously, not to go down a political path, but it has been a brutally exposing year
Mm-hmm.
of all of our fears, you know. And um, I think the thing we're most afraid of is taking like radical responsibility that of the idea that life could actually have meaning and purpose behind it. Because if you actually believe that, you have to take ownership of it, and you actually have to stay accountable to the idea that life could have some meaning. And it's so fucking easy to sit on the sidelines and just judge and assess and be the judge and juror of how everyone else is living. And I think the painful beauty that's been found in being forced to be isolated and go within yourself is you can do one of two things, which is to enable and sustain the level of victimhood with why you're not becoming or doing or being what you want to become and do and be in the world. Or you can actually have that 2020 vision and see what's actually there and actually take ownership of it and actually do something about it and be something different, you know. I would say my ability to press into the discomfort of putting on the 2020 binoculars and seeing clearly within myself. I think I see how much I still have to heal and grow as a individual, as a father, husband, friend. Um, there's so much shit inside of myself that needs to be not only acknowledged but needs to be wiped and flushed, you know.
Yeah.
And I would say this is kind of a random side street to detour off into, but I would say something. I would say one of the most difficult things I had to deal with, not to get all like personal, vulnerable, intimate, and shit, because that's exhausting. But we had I would say we had to prematurely. I won't go into the details, but prematurely say goodbye to a child this year, and um, the only reason I'm mentioning that is um, I think it exposed how afraid I am of really acknowledging how precious life is, and um, I think it exposed how much I take for granted that tomorrow's going to be here, and it exposed how thoroughly I need to not need to, but have the opportunity to grow in my ability to courageously love those I say I love. Because I think whether it's the coronavirus or racial injustice or whatever happened this last year to prematurely take someone you loved away from you, I think it exposed the fragility of just us as a species with what the numbers of what the coronavirus did in terms of taking lives prematurely. And obviously the child that I had to say goodbye to prematurely, it wasn't related to coronavirus anything, but regardless, it was an emotional environment where I had to face and recognize how much of a gift it is every day to wake up, and how easy it is to be complacent with the gift of my next breath. And it's amazing how, like, God, he, she, it, the universe, whatever's given me my next breath with this photosynthetic reality we're living in, it's amazing how patient whatever's holding this whole universe together is with just my reluctance to wake up each day and fearlessly love and understand how that is the only thing that matters in a day. The quality of a day, the meaning in a day is completely contingent on your ability to understand how valuable you are intrinsically, to be so free of needing to prove your worth to anyone that you can actually be in a space where I forget that I even have a need for you to love or like or even acknowledge my presence. I'm so free of that because I know I'm so worth being loved, so that I can actually be with you and connected to you and help be a mirror for you to be like, bro, you're fucking beautiful. Do you know how incredible and worth being loved you are? And I think that's kind of that. What's the word? I think that's that soul vaccine that is available, but the only pharmacist that's going to bottle that shit up and inject it is within yourself. I think that's what this year's exposed, is that there's no church, there's no pastor, there's no priest, there's no Buddha, there's no guru out there that is waiting for me to find them so that they can heal me from myself and give me the tools that are going to fix me. I think that's what's been so exposing in the isolation, is that I have to be the healer of myself. And it's no one else's responsibility but mine. And that's a terrifying thing, to not only be aware of that, but to take ownership of that, because the responsibility is on me every day. I don't get to pay a pastor and tithe and say, you're responsible to be my shepherd. I want to be safe. every fucking week from sadness and grief and loss. I have to wake up with myself every day and realize that the only reason I'm disconnected and and feeling sad for myself is because I'm not connected to myself. And it's been a fascinating year of seeing how fragile life is and how much I want to fucking run away from seeing how much of a gift it is, because if it's not a gift, then I don't have to flex any emotional muscle and actually be engaged with it. So, long story short, this year's exposed how fucking atrophied my soul musculature is, and but there's something beautiful about that, because if you see it for what it is, it's like an anorexic dude walking into a gym and being like, well, at least there's a gym here. At least there's something available for me to actually fucking set my alarm and wake up and lift. And at some point, maybe there'll be something more than skin and bones. But I think that's what the exposure was. Is I've been looking in the mirror a lot, and I don't. There's a lot of weights that I can't lift. But instead of being a victim of that, um, I see that as a gift to even be aware that I'm able to get my own ass out of my own emotional mess each day, and be the change that I want to see. And I just feel really grateful, you know.
Totally. Well, dude, that's that's really well said. Um, it makes me think of when you're talking about, just that, I guess that ability that you have to, not expect anybody to save you, not to search for that person to save you, but to find that within yourself is really, I mean, it's terrifying, like you said, but it's also empowering. I mean, it's amazing to think of, you know, embracing the hardship of what this year was for all of us, and specifically for you. And my goodness, to not turn to something, you know what I mean? To be with it is something that is very uncomfortable. And it's, this year has, I mean, we've lost a lot of the luxuries and the comforts that we've been used to. I mean, there's still plenty. We still have Netflix and all these things that we could still distract ourselves like crazy. I mean, all the different ways we can do it. But I'm just saying that it's really cool to hear, the fact that you are in it, that you're with it, that you're actively looking into it and being with it and wrestling with it, because it's so easy just to, and I'm just thinking, if someone listening to you, could probably just say something like, oh, if only he knew this, or if only he listened to this teaching or looked at this verse of this book. It's so easy to say that and say that this would solve your problems, or whatever. And it's like, well, it's almost foolish to think like that, because it's until you're you and you're in your shoes processing it. I mean, really, the only thing to do is what you're doing. It's just being with that and just focusing in on it and being attentive to like what's going on here in the midst of such uncomfortability is really, to me, it's empowering to hear, because it's just, I mean, a lot of us don't even really know what that is, because we have a counselor or we have a church or we have, some self-help book or something, we have some meditation practice or some outlet or some way. I mean, but how many of us really know what it's like to deal with something like you're talking about and not run from it? To me, that just needs to be seen. That is very amazing, because to do something like that involves a clarity of the situation that causes that courageousness to say, I'm willing to sit here with this because I can see why and how it's important. And I don't want that to be not seen, because it's so easy for, just thinking of third party, just to hear what you said and just be like, oh, if you just did this, dude, I got this counselor I'll set you up with. He's going to like really help you get through your shit. or if you read this book on grief, man, it's really going to help you get through this process.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's like, the intentions come up of just like feeling what you're saying and just like, I want to help you. But it's like, that's not your job, man. My job isn't to help you. My job's to listen to what you're saying here and be kind of just step back and go like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
what you just said was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't be lost by
Mm-hmm.
this thought of, oh, I want to help you. I don't want to help you, or it's even foolish for me to really think that I can help you. It's like what you're talking about with the presence of love. All I could be here for you right now is that, right? I just want to be that loving presence that I have no expectations of you. You can be open and honest. And like you said at the beginning, this is an emotional, open conversation where we're here for just to talk about stuff in some crazy way. And it's cool just to do that. But it's amazing to get to be with another human being who is bold enough and courageous enough to do what you're doing in that sense, and to be as honest about it, to not only say it, but you're saying it on a microphone that's going on a Facebook. I mean, good Lord, who's going to do that? You know, you may write it in your diary, but you're not going to put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, I think it's amazing.
Well, it's very generous of you, dude. And I think, another interesting point, and I'm really not wanting to overshare about, me, I, but it just, it's just experientially, just what my vantage point of what this last year was, in trying to be compassionate and empathetic to the reality is like what I've dealt with is a fucking cakewalk comparatively to what I would say most other people have had to go through. And there's I think another real significant gift is when you have that level of ownership of recognizing like you're your own shepherd of your own soul, and like there's never been like the only sheep that you're supposed to or the only sheep that you are is the one that's self-imposed. Like you are as dependent as you choose to be on a quote unquote shepherd. And because it is terrifying to take responsibility to shepherd your own life. It is, because you have to take responsibility for it. And there's an interesting thing that happens when, like you said, like the natural provoking human thing is to hear something sad and to see someone struggle. Like if you have a heartbeat, there's an intrinsic awakening of, I want to offer suggestions or insights or love, or I want to help that person. And to anyone that had a heartbeat as a byproduct of me just sharing a snippet of whatever the fuck, the only way you can help me is by helping yourself. And to recognize, like, I've been guilty of that too so many times, is hearing or observing something catastrophic in someone else's life, is I want to be there, and I want to be the help or the crutch for them, spiritually speaking. And the reality is in the same way I did too many times, is like, it never was and it never will be my place to help that person tell them what they need to do for themselves. And ultimately what's driving the initiative to wanna to do that is because we're too afraid to focus on our own lives journey. Is there's this altruistic escape that we get off on, of seeing frailty in someone else's life and being like, oh, you're welcome ahead of time. I have come to be the stitches and the Band-Aid of your soul. And all you have to do is copy and paste the steps that I've taken. And therein lies the codependency and the domino of no real growth, and 2 steps forward and 73 back. And another thing that I feel so grateful for this last year is again, not to overshare about myself, but there's, just want to give you context. This last year I had a big ass fucking tumor in my back get taken out. And I actually went to go see my doctor, and like without anyone else knowing about it because of for other cancer reasons in the past. And something really beautiful came out of that is getting to be in a space again where you hear the word tumor or cancer again years later from when it was previous in my life, and getting to like physiological feel the peace, like the instantaneous, like it's gonna be okay, like whatever this means, whether this is just a barcode with an expiration date on it that's sooner than I'd like, that's okay. That's okay. And I think that's a huge gift to be able to be in a place where you can be dancing with those words of tumor, or cancer, or whatever it is, and biopsy this, um, and to have that available piece immediately there on the shelf, to know that you can feel so parched day to day for that hypothetical piece that is available out there. We're all trying to find that well to drink from because we're all starving and so thirsty to find and create moments that make sense and have peace and are calming. I just feel so grateful to kind of have that as almost like a totem pole, like carving out like a period in my life, like a moment where it's like, hey, this whole spiritual thing, this whole like seeking to understand what the fuck we're doing, it's worth it, you know? And by no means do I have anything figured out, but I feel so grateful to have a moment where there was like another limboing of, hey, this is where you are reminded that you're human and you're not going to be here forever. And it might be sooner, the expiration date might be sooner than you want. There was like this reassurance of like, that's okay. I'm being attached to trying to keep a thing perfect and alive that will inevitably die and crumble and fade away. Like there's so much freedom in that, and knowing that is available. So I'm not like dangling a carrot out there saying like, hey, it's really worth going down the spiritual path because when you get cancer, you're going to feel totally zenned out, bro. Like there's by no means is that like, I'm not saying for everyone's journey, there's going to be a specific prescribed altruistic namaste zenned out Yoda level of freedom. By no means. It's a terrifying thing. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But there's something really beautiful and encouraging about having the courage to move forward each day and know that you don't know, and choose to have some sweat equity in showing up, whether it's just sitting, journaling, exerting any effort, you know?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to tap out, you know? So I would say for you to flip the script, like what's one or two of the most significant things that you've seen when you got naked in front of the mirror and had some soul modeling sessions and being like, oh, sweet baby Jesus, what is that? You know, like what has been exposed in that, you know, metaphorical 2020 vision of what have you observed in yourself, and what are you thankful for basically seeing and being in that place of unwelcomed isolation.
Whew, dude, yeah. I love that you painted the imagery of like a 2020 like microscope, because I mean that's kind of what this year can be if we allow it to be, right? And I mean, good Lord, for my year, oh my goodness. I mean, it's crazy because I mean in our industry, like work has continued on, right? And it's kind of weird. Like been downtown Portland working since I haven't slowed down at all. And it's like I've watched this kind of the world has kind of stopped and gone crazy around me, as I'm downtown working, especially where our job is. It's like
Mm-hmm.
when, you watched as the virus hit and, lockdowns happened and this was, when all the protests and stuff were going on and things are getting boarded up and it's like, what is going on here? And at first there was this huge level of fear and just people were terrified and pissed that they had to work, you know, where the people that were terrified when it started now don't care at all. Right. Crazy just to see all this stuff that's happened. And I kind of, watch, as this year for me, it's been really interesting because I mean, having a baby during a pandemic
Yeah.
was a really interesting thing,
Mm.
so having this little newborn and going into the hospital, and, it was almost like checking into the airport, like, okay, see you guys later, lucky I get to go in,
Yeah.
and it was just really weird. Um, and I'm thankful that, we were able to get in the hospital. Baby came out healthy. We were able to go home. We had everything we needed. It wasn't like supply lines shut down and there was no diapers or baby food or anything. I mean, it was interesting. But I think with all of it, man, it's been just a whirlwind of like, having three kids and, school shut down where my kids are at home and just kind of seeing how it's affected home life has been really interesting because it's like that chaos that you were almost like able to keep out.
Hmm.
You've watched as it like came in.
Implode.
Yeah, and it's like I've watched as my wife is struggled to maintain, but it's just, the world we're in and like having three smaller kids, it was just like inevitable.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's a matter of like, how do you stay present in it all? How do you openly, embrace the day without having your attitude, it's like reminds me of that man's search for meaning, right? You only have the ability to change your attitude in any given situation. It's amazing how easy it is to let your attitude go to a darker place where you're frustrated, like, geez, I can't believe things are like this. Oh my gosh, or whatever. And you grumble and you do all that crap. So for me, it was just like, it was a battle with like, how do I embrace what's going on here? And how am I this loving presence in my own home, let alone anywhere else? Because I've watched as like everything just kind of came in,
Mm-hmm.
especially as my kids are going nuts around the house trying to find stuff to do, unable to socialize and go to the park. And, I got a baby that's needing to take naps and nurse and, it's just like this craziness. And then my life hasn't slowed down. I still have to work and do that. So yeah, it's been a lot to handle, but it's a matter of like, when I look in the mirror, like you just said, it's a matter of like, what are you going to do with this? Are you going to complain and whine about how things could be different and, blah, blah, blah? Or are you just going to embrace the fact that this is where it is right now, and move forward with it? So for me, it was with that. It was like, I realized how necessary it is to embrace it, because when I don't is when I'm irritable, bitter, you know, it's just that stuff creeps in and it's like, it doesn't get any better because the chaos just amplifies it, makes it worse. And then, I can't be there to help my wife or be there with my kids. And then all I need is just like, I need to go upstairs and get room to breathe, and you just feel suffocated. And it's weird because when you kind of walk into it and you accept it, then you are able to, it's like oxygen fills the room and you're able to breathe. I'm able to be there with my kids and not react, when my baby starts crying or other situations that come in our house like crazy. So for me, it's been this insane lesson on how you can still be present in the
Hmm.
midst of just craziness.
Hmm.
And it's like you have every reason to justify why I was angry or bitter or tired or sad or whatever. But it's a matter of just having that awareness to be like, okay, I see this for what it is, and I see the opportunity here to really embrace it and like be this beacon of like, help my kids overcome the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Like help, like that, like their dad still wants to be here with you in the midst of everything. And same with my wife, just to be there. And, when she's going crazy trying to maintain the kids, I come back from work and she's just exhausted by it. To just see her for where she is and how she is,
Yeah.
and just walk in and be that presence of love that she's starving for. These little minions just sucking the life out of her every day. So I think for me, it's I mean, that's probably the biggest thing. It's a matter of, how am I going forward with it without this like resistance to what's going on, because it's so easy to just, I don't want to wear these stupid masks at work and I can't see because it fogs up my glasses, and I'm trying to work, and it creates a dangerous situation because, I mean, how do you weld or grind and like have a mask and do it's like, it's easy to get bitter and complain about whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, it's just been this lesson of just like, you can't control the situation. It's like you got to tap out before you start. And when you kind of tap to it and surrender to it, it does. It gives you opportunity to just have this amazing attitude and opportunity for growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it has been a really tough year for that. And but it has been galvanizing in some way. Like I've watched, as just, I mean, for me and my family and stuff like that, where it's challenged. I mean, it's been tough, but it's been necessary.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think for me, man, that's been it. It's that. It's how do I have that loving, attitude every single day and every moment, especially when right now it just feels really difficult to do that. Where before it felt easier, kids get out of the house, you have breaks, you could, and now it's not as easy. So,
Well, I love just the acknowledgement of being forced to see um, how non-present we were prior to the pandemic, because there was a luxury of busyness and the availability of being able to go everywhere, do anything, socialize, do all this. Um, there was a welcomed addiction to distraction, and um, when we are forced, like we have been this last year, to not only be really isolated and kind of quarantined to that nucleus of what our little worlds are, how we're confronted with all of the things that were prior available to go run away to. It's okay now that I cannot run away and just go stimulate myself away from the things that I don't want to face. It's okay, how do I not only be here, but how do I actually be awake and consciously connected to this little small reality that I say is the most meaningful thing in the world. Yet prior to being quarantined, I did everything in my power to run away from and find excuses to busy myself from not being present with this nucleus of a family. And um, I love and applaud you for not only being aware of that, but um, having the courage to be present and be compassionate to your wife and kids, and want to not fall to that so readily available quicksand of entertainment always, or things that are disguising themselves as really meaningful. So kids, wait, I'll pay attention to you eventually after I do something that really matters. And yeah, it's really beautiful, man, that you can not only see that, but like really step into it. It's it's incredible how afraid we are to be in a state of presence, how afraid we are to be quiet, to actually listen to what the fuck's even going on in our own heads, let alone quiet enough to extend the compassion and empathy to someone else's reality and be engaged with that, and not just listening to their reality for the sole reason of listening to something that reminds you of yourself, so you can start talking about yourself and your own struggle.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone that I love very much, actually recently, about the idea of like this unwelcomed struggle, quote unquote, like this, um, the challenges that we've faced, and how much it's interesting how much power we give to just the verbiage of what a struggle is, and that the neurological like firing of this fight or flight thing that happens when we say this is a challenge, this is a struggle. Therefore, like the encoded response we have as humans, well, if that flame's hot, pull your hand away. Whereas all of these quote unquote challenges that we've been facing this last year are, what I challenged this person to think about is they're not challenges. They're, as I sarcastically say at work all the time, these are incredible opportunities for growth. And it's so interesting how this last year's exposed how weak we are, and how much we enable the escape route, from actually being present with the things that are challenging us. And in actuality, if we bend that Webster dictionary definition of what a challenge is, like there needs to be a synonym connected to it that is like future beautiful moments. Like, this is not a challenge. This is not a struggle. This is something inviting you to grow in a way that's uncomfortable, but will allow you to actually, like you said, this year's like you and I, same fucking thing every day. Our glasses are fogging up at work from what we do, and on the construction sites, and it's like so. That's such a first world problem. It's embarrassing to say that's a struggle, but the reality of it is like what we're struggling with emotionally, spiritually, and all the things that have been exposed this last year. If we can press into them, like the real definition of like what a challenge is like freedom, man, peace, like to the degree that you can enter into that struggle or that dilemma, like there's an equal opposite level of like incredibly okayness with the future mirroring challenges that happen. At some point, you're going to have to figure out how to deal with that challenge, because it's just going to put on a different outfit, and they're just going to be puppeting around, and you think you're avoiding this challenge, but there's going to be an exact mirrored challenge that's just dressed in a different outfit in a different circumstance. And until you know how to dance with that whatever crazy ass outfitted person that's asking you to dance, until you learn how to dance with the devil, like there's going to be no peace, you know?
No doubt, dude. It makes me think of like, when you have these so-called challenges or, complications that happen in life. I mean, basically, when you really can, step back and look at it, you see that they are like, they just show you kind of where you're clinging to something, because it's like this surface level thing that pops up. Oh, we're frustrated because of, something that happened at home. I asked somebody to do something and they didn't do it or whatever. And like a lot of times, it just, when you boil it down, it just shows you down that rabbit hole. There's something much deeper, much bigger going on here. Is it a fear that they don't really love me? Is it, a sadness that's hard to explain? Like what is it, And it's amazing to me when, we can actually detach enough to really pay attention to what's being stirred here and how it's being stirred, that it's really amazing when you can do that. It's just it's hard for us to do that because I feel like we're trapped in our heads so much that we're so attached to these things that we really are them. We are the pain that happens in a loss or whatever, or a frustration in a moment, that like it's captivating enough where we feel it. We're stuck in the pain. We just want the pain to go away. And there's this lack of depth of seeing, okay, what made it pop up in the first place? What's it drawing attention to here? Because to me, it's like it's all a call to attention. It's just a matter of you going to answer the call.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, no, we're not going to answer that call. We're going to find something to silence that phone call. And that's what 2020 was. we lost a lot of opportunities to silence those calls.
Just bitch button the hell out of 2020.
Yeah, that it's like it kept ringing when we didn't want it to. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, God damn, someone shut that damn phone off.
Yeah.
What's that disease where you hear the phone ring?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I think about it, it's just like, I mean, when I guess have looked at it in a different perspective like that, it's allowed a lot more opportunity for growth, to say it in that cliche way, you know. But it's true when you do it. I mean, it's just, it sounds ugh when you say it, like, oh, opportunities for growth, oh fuck yeah, you know, whatever. But it is, and it's showing you that there is something here that needs your attention, and it's, are you going to do something about it? That's it. And most people aren't.
Yeah.
They're just gonna pull out their phone and play a game or text or
Yeah.
you know, watch something or whatever. I mean, that's just like kind of what our world teaches. There's not really a school on 101 of like how you really deal with the things in life. The closest thing we have are like backgrounds we had coming up in a church or finding a book or something. There's just not a lot of like, I mean, I've never had anyone sit me down and be like, hey man, just so you know, like, if you can just sit and like try to like let these thoughts go away and just like see what's going on underneath it, that like there's a lot there. No one told me that. It seems like anything you find is just another methodology of, you know, something. And it's just next thing you know, it's like you hear the stories of those people that, you know, meditate for 30 years in some, and it's like the only thing you were doing was meditating for 30 years. It didn't do anything. You were following someone's path. It's like, how hard is it for us to like listen to the cry of what's going on in our hearts and not just find something to distract? It is. It's everything. And it's honestly the crux of our lives. Are we going to do that? Or are we not going to do that? Like, what's it going to take to get us to that point? And for a lot of people, it's some really tough stuff.
Yeah.
It's like a rock bottom that is brutal.
Yeah. Well, I think you pretty much summed up everything perfectly in what 2020 was, and it was the constant fucking soul telemarketer, just nonstop, just dialing your number, and you accidentally put your number in that website and they got a hold of it. So now every fucking salesman is trying to call you from, you see, like, I don't know anyone in South America. Why am I getting a call from Norway right now? Yeah. And that's the reality. Is there's 2020 exposed that the geography of your soul is like, there's cries for help all over, and you're finally forced to see and look at it, and it's like, oh shit, like, oh God, you keep looking at the phone and you just keep bitch butting it, like not picking up. And I think that's just such a beautiful way of summarizing it, dude, is just realizing that no one's going to pick up the phone for you. No one should pick up the phone for you. Like, the only thing standing between you and life making sense is picking up the phone and getting quiet enough to actually hear yourself cry for the help that it needs. Yeah. And actually listening to that internal dialogue and giving it the space and creating the space that's quiet enough to hear. Because there's so many parts of your soul that don't have good cell service. You know, they're so off the fucking map. And because you've intentionally kicked them out of the country of your present day importantness, fullness. And yeah. I think that's the reality is, to the degree you're able to find that quiet space and listen to your long lost self in whatever the fuck third world country that you've been sitting in, to the degree you're able to do that, so too will life start making sense. Yeah. And it's time to get a new fucking cell phone plan and get coverage, you know, all over. And but it has to be a choose your own adventure. No one can choose that adventure for you. It's yours to choose.
Yeah. No, I think that's it, bro. I think it's a good way to end this conversation of, you know, where do you go from here? It's just a matter of what are you going to do with that? And just to leave it like that. What are you going to do? You know, I know what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to make space for that and to get quiet and still and see what happens and not use it in some way of zenning yourself out, like you said. It's not the goal here. It's just seeing that what else is there to do, and it's kind of self-explanatory in that sense.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, anything else to add, dude?
Yeah, I just feel incredibly grateful to just be in a space where you and I have no agenda, and literally verbatim before we started, you're like, my dude, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. Let's see what happens, just so unattached from needing to take ownership of feeling like anyone else needs to hear something we're saying. And I think that's the whole point, is that we have no point. Mm-hmm. There is a less point. There's a pointlessness to what we're saying, outside of the fact that the only thing we're here to do is to hopefully help you help yourself. You're the only one. You're the absolutely, for better, for worse, you're the only one that's going to figure it out. Yeah. And I think there is, I think we are so fucking capable. I think that's the encouraging thing, is we are able to create miracles within ourselves in terms of the healing. But it does take a stupid amount of patience and endurance to deconstruct the pretend self that you've constructed. But there is a self. If you get quiet, I think everyone knows exactly what the fuck they could be doing today to start tiptoeing towards a space that felt more meaningful or made more sense. So I think it's not supposed to be a depressing statement of like, you're alone. That's how it's supposed to be. It's actually, no, we're all exactly 100% the same. And in your ability to get alone, you'll realize how fucking connected you are to everyone.
Yeah, that is a mind trip for sure. No, but I think it's an empowering way to end it, man. So I appreciate it. Appreciate getting to sit here and talk and do this kind of thing, man. I mean, it's amazing, when we're sitting here before and it's like, do you want to do a podcast? It's like, nah, I mean, it's nice to have the freedom just to do it. You're not seeking anything out of it. It's more just, it's interesting when you can sit here and have this platform to just talk and like what comes about it, because it creates a different type of conversation, which is just kind of fascinating to watch. And that's kind of all I wanted to do. I don't care if anyone, listens or what they think. They could think we're crazy people, whatever, it is what it is. I just think it's cool to sit here and do it together.
Yeah, dude.
Right on.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this one. We will be back, I guess, one of these days doing another one.
When we are.
All right. Bye.